What is up? Need for Speed Racers. It is I, your wheelman, Alex Cornnut. Today we start the series $1 Billion Builds. This is episode 1. I've given myself $1 billion, as you can see up in the corner. My save file got corrupted, so I modded myself in enough money to build every car in the game, with every engine in the game, with every part that we can buy, so that way there's no question on what the most optimal build is for each one of these vehicles. That being said, there might be a little deviation for you personally. You might have a drift style a little closer to slide QT, so you might need to put some drift tires on it and change a few things. I run Gripium. Majority of these vehicles are going to be set up for grip driving style, but it's not too hard to change it. If I have a build for both cars, I will do that for you. But due to the length of these videos, due to all of the content we're trying to pack in, majority of them are just going to be grip, and then you're going to have to change for that drift style. But most of you guys that run drift already kind of know how to set that up, and if you don't, it's not that hard to get there. So we'll work through that together. The goal of these videos is to make sure that we put the very best builds in everyone's hands for every car, so that way there's really no question on what it is. There's a lot of misinformation in the world right now on YouTube on what different builds are, and I've taken a look at some of these and I cringe a little bit, and I'm like, no, I gotta do one solid for my people. So we're just gonna knock it all out and we're gonna get it done right. We're gonna start with the Land Rover Defender. The reason I chose this car is because I needed to start with an order of some kind, and instead of bouncing all over the place, if you go to rides and you go to buy and sell and we search by rating, the Land Rover Defender is the first one, and then each car is put in order of its current rating when it's stock. That actually works really well for our favor because there's a lot of bangers spread in throughout this list, and every couple of cars we're going to get a couple of really good ones. And so that being said, it'll stop us from hitting like a group of BMWs that are Omega mid or driving Ferraris for 2 weeks. And so that, or when we get into Lamborghini, all we're doing is building Lambos. So that being said, this is going to help that out. It's going to spread out the cars a little bit, and it's going to give us a lot of variety within the videos. Let's dig into it. We're going to start with B-Class. The engine that we're using for the B-Class Land Rover Defender is the engine that comes stock. It is the 2.2 liter inline 4, 121 brake horsepower when we start. Guys, do not look at potential horsepower. That doesn't matter for the purpose of these videos because that will change when you add forced induction. That always trips somebody up, and I'm tired of it. So just set that clear, set the record straight, follow the build. You will get to the same endpoint that I do every time. Nothing ever changes in this game, ever. So that being said, there's only 3 engines to choose from for B-Class. It's the 1.3 liter Wankel, that's the little spinning Nacho the rotary engine. We've got our stock diesel motor, and then there's also the 4.0 liter inline 6. Out of those 3 engines, when they're built up to B-Class, this second engine over, the stock engine, has by far the most horsepower and the most torque, so it's going to give us the very best performance platform to build on. The parts, you're going to do Elite Platinum induction, you're going to do Elite Platinum ECU, and then you're going to do stock fuel system, iron basic, stock exhaust, which is iron basic, and then you're going to do Elite Platinum screw supercharger. You can do either screw or roots in this case, but the screw is a little better, so that's why we went with that one. We're going to keep the NOS Sport Bronze in almost every single build we do, unless it's a cheese build, and I'll show you guys that as we get down the road. So guys, don't worry about that nitrous. Anybody that's got a higher tier of nitrous or a higher clutch is not playing this game optimally, so you can pretty much ignore those builds right out of the gate. Almost, I'm going to say 99% of all the builds we're doing, unless it's a drift racing setup, we're going to be running Elite Platinum road suspension. So just get ready to use that in all your builds, guys. That's what we're going to be seeing a lot of. And then we're going to do iron or sport bronze or iron basic brakes, depending on what car it is. We never upgrade the brakes because you don't need them. For this build, we are using Elite Platinum grip tires. This is a rowdy truck car no matter what you do, so just slap on those Elite Platinum grippies and go with it. And then we run iron basic clutch. If you're an automatic player, I'm sorry, drive faster, get a manual, learn to play it. It's better for you. That being said, if you are an automatic player and you're struggling with the way the cars shift, you can put a better clutch in there and take horsepower out, but you're going to get walked. So I would recommend, if you want to get competitive, learn how to drive manual, you guys. We keep the stock 5-speed Sport Bronze transmission. And then we are going to put the Elite Platinum differential. We definitely need it. Now, as I've already touched on in a previous video, auxiliaries are bugged. So if you plan to reset your aux at the beginning of each race when you drive this car, go slap on your nitrous drift, go slap on your nitrous grip, get you a little more blue NOS. It does not have anything to do with yellow boost. So the yellow bar is completely independent from these auxiliaries. So if that's what you're chasing, don't even worry about it. All this does is give you more blue boost. And they only work when you reset them. So if you're not going to worry about doing that, save your money. Don't worry about buying those two things. This setup is going to be optimal for B class. It's the best that I can give you out of the 3 engines. It's not that great, but it'll get you around the track. Slide the slider all the way to the left. You're going to go 60% grip. That's the most we can get out of it. It does okay. Centering sensitivity, I run 2 clicks high. That's my personal preference. You guys do whatever you want there. And then downforce, it's the last 2 clicks. So you're going to go all the way high, back it off 1, or back it off 2, I guess. It's the last 3 clicks, excuse me. That is B159. Anything less than that is going to put you into the A160 class. So that's B class. It's all set up. I run traction control off, and drift entry I have set to brake tap. B class has got 135 top speed. It'll do a little better than that, but it takes a while to get there. 464 for your horsepower and 691 for your foot-pounds of torque. 0 to 60 in quarter mile do not matter. Do not ever approach me with those stats in your comments. I don't care. Those are completely wrong, and they will lead you down a path of building cars incorrectly. Anybody who comes in here and looks at the top speed and builds a car and goes, oh, now my car does 230. More often than not, it'll never get there. So ignore top speed, ignore 0 to 60, ignore quarter mile. What we're really chasing is that horsepower and torque figure. That's going to put you on a much better path to build an optimal car. All right, let's get into it. Let's do A class. For the A class build, I've already got this one on the channel, but we're going to keep it refreshed so that way there's no question on if you can build it or not. It hasn't changed. But for the engine, we've still got the same 3 options because the Sport Bronze engine starts to take us into A+ class. So out of the 3, we're still using the stock engine. That 2.2 liter inline 4 is going to give us by far and away the most horsepower and torque. You'll see that the Wankel has 130 less horsepower, and then the 4.0 liter inline 6 has got about 100 less horsepower, and we won't even look at the torque because it's hundreds away, like half in some cases. So that being said, that's definitely the engine to build on. For the parts, you're going to go Sport Bronze induction, you're going to do Elite Platinum ECU, you're going to do Elite Platinum fuel system, and then Super Gold exhaust. And we're still going to pair all of that up with the Elite Platinum screw supercharger. It's the very best forced induction that you can use. That's why I'm going to default to that in a majority of these builds. Sometimes the car does better with the turbo, but those are kind of few and far between. Rule of thumb is put in the screw if you can. If it doesn't fit, try to make the roots work. Outside of that, we deviate a little bit. Every now and then we'll change it, but for the most part, that's kind of what we're going to be doing. The nitrous has not changed, so we're going to be doing Sport Bronze. The rest of the car is the exact same as the B class, so it's going to be Elite Platinum road suspension, stock brakes, Elite Platinum grip tires, stock clutch, and then the Sport Bronze 5-speed transmission. Make sure you guys always slap in that Elite Platinum diff because you do need to slide that handling slider around to make it fit in the class. And then auxiliaries are up to you if you choose to run them at all. Handling, you're going to slide that slider all the way to the left. It is still 60% grip. I know my camera's in the way, but you can see the grip percentage on the side there. So check for that. It's really going to be easy to see in these videos. Steering sensitivity is 2 clicks high. That's where I always keep it for myself. Downforce, if you're in the middle and you back it off 1, that is a 209. You can run it up, but that's as far to the left as you can get it. And lower downforce is going to help you on the acceleration side just a little bit, so I like it there. Traction control off, drift entry is brake tap. That's the A class Land Rover Defender. 148 for the top speed. It'll do about 150 with some redline tech. 639 for your horsepower and 871 for your torque. Overall, it does okay. This is a mid-tier vehicle no matter how we build it, but this is the most optimal way to get it going. Now let's get a little more spicy. We'll get into the A+ class. A+ is where we start to get a little spicy. I've got 2 options for you. I'm going to show you both. Depends on really what you're looking for. The issue that we run into in A+ class is when we start to tier up the transmission to get a proper top speed, it just takes us well out of the class with any kind of horsepower that's reasonable. And so because it's so heavy, it's a hard balance to find. That being said, we've got two here. So the first engine I'm going to show you is the third engine over. It is the 4.0 liter inline 6. 282 brake horsepower when you start. We go all the way up to 846. Now for the parts, this is where we max out this engine all the way. So it's Elite Platinum everything. Elite Platinum intake, Elite Platinum ECU, Elite Platinum fuel system, and Elite Platinum exhaust. You're going to pair all that up with the Elite Platinum screw supercharger, and then you're going to slap in a super gold bottle of nitrous because we had extra points to play with. You're going to run Elite Platinum road suspension, stock brakes, and Elite Platinum grip tires. Keep the clutch iron basic. And then you're going to keep the Sport Bronze 5-speed transmission. Elite Platinum differential, that way you got the most out of that handling slider, and then the auxiliaries don't change. Handling, slide the slider all the way to the left, 60% grip. Steering sensitivity 2 clicks high for me. Downforce all the way high. You can back it off a couple of clicks and it'll stay at 269. It's just the all the way furthest to the low click, which is a 270. So you can go all the way low on it if you want. Pretty much no matter what you do, this is going to be pretty spicy. It's going to be a short track car. It only does about 160 with Redline Tech, which is really not enough for A+ class. You want to be doing well into the 170, 180 mile per hour range if you want to be competitive. That being said, I don't think anybody's out here running the Defender trying to be competitive, but regardless, here's what we got. Now, setup 2, which we're going to show for the spicy boys. Guys, I did buy all the engines and built them all up to this class, and you'll see that right now they're showing that they're in S class, but when we make these changes like I'm about to, the reason we go to this other engine for build 2, second engine over, it is the 2.2 liter inline 4, is because this one's got a lot more torque than the 4.0 liter i6. More torque, more better, a little bit better acceleration, it's great, and when we change it up and tune it up, you get a lot more out of it. Now for the parts on this engine, it's Elite Platinum, all of it. So it's the same as the previous build. In this case, you do get to put a Pro Silver bottle of nitrous. So Elite Platinum first 4, and then put in this Elite Platinum screw supercharger. For the chassis, you're going to go Elite Platinum off-road suspension, and you're going to do Elite Platinum off-road tires. By putting those off-road tires on it, we've now made an off-road boy that's a little wild. But to keep it all in the class and keep it spicy, you're going to slap in the Elite Platinum 8-speed transmission, and then keep the differential in there. And then your handling slider, just make sure you run that all the way high. You've got 2 clicks that are A plus 268. Everything else is 270 or above. So I'd say run the downforce all the way high. It's going to be wild as hell. What that's going to do is going to give you this off-road monster that says it'll do 205. It's never going to get there, but with the close gear ratios and it being a diesel, it does okay. This is for somebody that knows what they're doing, knows kind of the track configurations. The long climb is a great setup for this car. It's no Barracuda, but it still definitely will get you down the track. So the first build is more of a short track monster with good horsepower. This is more of an off-road beast with enough torque to carry you through. Out of the two, I would probably set this one up for A+ class if I was going to run this, and just pull it out when I was getting spicy with people, because it is kind of fun to drive. But it's so heavy, guys. It's just gonna be a lug no matter what you do. That being said, that is the 2 builds that you can run for A+. Run anything you like, but out of the 2, I'd probably deviate to this one a little more often. And you do get a little more nitrous out of the A+ class because we cap out on the engines. And like I was showing you guys before, I did build all of these engines up to the A+ class, like that one and others. But when it's all said and done, it's either no transmission and it's slow, or add the transmission, you have a top speed, but then you don't have any power to push the vehicle. So this is kind of like that happy medium. All that being said, guys, I still think the 4.0 liter i6 is probably better for like that short track build, but you need to take that transmission out of it. But at the end of the day, if you're building this for A+ class, you don't care about being competitive because this car is not. Let me show you what we've got for S. For S class, there's a couple different engines to choose from. You'll see that I've got different numbers on all of these. The reason we've got different numbers is because I've already got it built up. Like the 3.8 liter flat 6 has got Elite Platinum parts plus nitrous. So the only way to raise its PI value is to change the transmission, but that just raises the top speed. So we essentially are artificially inflating the numbers just by giving it a higher top speed. So what we're chasing is that horsepower and the torque. Now, out of all the engines available, there's one that is a clear victor. So if we go all the way over to the right and then scale backwards from the V12, which is an S Plus already because it wraps out so high, it gives us a crazy top speed. We've got this shining star of an engine right here. The 3.5 liter V6 hybrid has 1033 on the horsepower and 809 on the torque, and so it is definitely going to be the one to choose if you're going to build it for S-Class. For the parts, it's Elite Platinum, all of it, plus nitrous, so you get a full build on this one. You can trade out the nitrous and put brakes in the clutch if you want, but you're trading performance for shifting, so learn how to play manual. That being said, it's Elite Platinum, all of it for the first 4, and then you're going to put the Elite Platinum screw supercharger in it. Now, some people might say, oh, Alex, the turbo's got more horsepower. Yes, but you're trading torque and you're trading instant response for having all of that power versus the top end of the RPM range. I much prefer the superchargers for racing, and if you wanted to, you could put just the roots in it and you're good to go, but the screw fits by making a couple changes to the handling, so we're going to do that in just a moment. Elite Platinum nitrous, Elite Platinum road suspension, stock brakes, Elite Platinum grip tires, stock clutch, Sport Bronze 5-speed transmission. If you touch it with a higher transmission that brings up that top speed, it immediately goes to S+. So this is definitely a pretty competitive build for this car in S-Class, as much as it can be. It's definitely the only one that is decently fast, but like I said, you're paying for it a little bit. Now the handling, because this car is so heavy, that's what I mean by you're paying for it. 60% grip as we're doing on this vehicle, but to get it in the class you got to go 55% grip. And then this handling slider you can do a lot with. It's one click to the left of center is the last spot to keep it in the class. Everything else there is S plus 330. So I'd say one click to the left of center for downforce is going to get you in that sweet spot. That is S329. 55% grip. Steering sensitivity is 2-click high, and then traction control off, drift entry is brake tap. If you want to maximize your grip, you can put it to 60% and then go slap on the roots instead of the screw, but for the sake of 5%, I'm running the screw in this build. What that's going to do is set this car up for S-Class. It is going to be 1033 on your horsepower and 809 on your foot-pounds of torque. Top speed is going to be 191. It'll do just a little better than that with Redline Tech. All of that being said, there's cars in this class that will do 210. So you're going to be getting walked by other faster vehicles. But once again, I don't think you guys are driving this car to be competitive. So if you're looking for a fun build in S-Class, this setup with this engine is definitely going to be the way to go. Slap on the 3.5 liter hybrid, because everything else is just lacking so much in horsepower. I mean, we're trading 200 horsepower to run any of those other engines, and that's not a good trade. All right, let me max these all out and show you what we would do for S+. God forbid you actually want to drive this car, you mad lads. We started this video off with $1 billion. We've already spent $5 million on this crazy vehicle. I can't believe it. So out of the engines for S+ class, if you decide you want to drive this beast of a machine, I've bought everything and maxed it all out. So no matter what engine you buy, when it's fully maxed out, best parts all the way across, Elite Platinum, all of it, there's 2 options that actually get you all the way to 400 plus. So there's the last engine over, which is the 6.5 liter V12. It is the Elite Platinum engine, 759 brake horsepower when we start. If you max it all the way out with the transmission and everything, you get 1040 on your horsepower and 717 on your torque. It's okay. It says it'll do about 232, maybe. It'll take a long time to get there. The other option is the same engine that we've already been building on, which is the 3.5 liter V6 hybrid. I think the hybrid's better. It's got 100 more foot-pounds of torque, and if you already built this car in S-Class, all you're doing is adding on the brakes, the clutch, and a few other little miscellaneous parts. So it's a lot cheaper to get this into S+ if you've already been playing with this vehicle, because we use this engine multiple times. So you're essentially trading 7 horsepower for about 90 foot-pounds of torque. So it's a pretty decent trade, in my opinion. Between the two, the V12 sounds a lot better. I'm not even gonna pretend. but I think the V6 Hybrid's the one to build. For these builds, you guys, you just buy the best of everything and slap it in there. And so we've done nothing from the previous build other than just go Elite Platinum all of it. And so there's no reason for me to touch on that. I'm sure you guys can figure out just going all the way to the right and buying those vehicles or buying those parts for the vehicle. Both of them say they'll do about 230, 233. Guys, in S Plus class, you're gonna get walked by the real cars if you're driving this. But if you're a mad lad and you want to get wild with it, this completes the build. That is all the different ways you can do it. And then for your handling slider, I've got it all the way low on the downforce because that'll give you the best top speed. I wouldn't recommend this. I wouldn't recommend spending this kind of money on this vehicle. But if you've got lots and lots of money and you're wanting to play with something wild, go for it. But this isn't going to rank high on my list of personal preferences. That being said, a lot of you guys have asked me to rank all of the vehicles as I go through them. I don't want to do that. What ends up happening when I rank vehicles is nobody wants to touch the ones that are lower ranked, F tier, A tier, and then there's always somebody that wants to disagree, like, oh no, my car should be in B tier instead of C tier, or you rank this as F class, but I murder people in this car. Get out. Like, if I'm ranking cars, I'll rank them my way. But if I rank cars, people will start to use that as a baseline for if a car is good or not. And if you like a car and you get fast in it, you'll beat a lot of players that are not nearly as accomplished and haven't practiced in their cars. So I would recommend just picking something you like, driving it, having fun, because that's the point of the game. And if you're getting sweaty and you're going after meta times and world records or whatever it might be, you already know the best cars in the game. So this is really just to fill the gaps with everything else, because there's people out there making builds that are omega mid and don't have a clue what they're doing. So that being said, that's why I'm touching on all this for you guys. That is the Land Rover Defender. Every build I can bring you that's somewhat competent in all of the classes. Not one I'm going to recommend for myself, but it's somewhere to start. You guys have a great rest of your day. If you made it this far on the video, please like the video. Gets it in front of other people, and we will continue to go down this list. You guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.